This is the inside scoop into IRS tax crimes. So today we're going to cover frequently asked questions. These are questions that have come up over the years between clients and people that have sent us emails, and I thought they might be interesting to you. The first is, must there be a tax loss if the IRS is investigating a tax crime? Generally, yes, the IRS is looking for a loss to the federal government in taxes. If you file a tax return, for instance, and didn't report all the income, or you overstated your expenses and it rises to the level of willfulness, then the IRS is going to be typically the lead agency. However, there are criminal cases where the IRS is not the lead agency. We had a case a while back where there was Medicare fraud, and the company was engaged with Medicare and potentially or allegedly had defrauded Medicare by quite a lot of money. And so the IRS was brought in to investigate the financial transactions, but they were not the lead agency. And therefore, it was not required to have, in fact, they weren't even looking for a tax loss. They were looking for something entirely different. The second question that has come up is the information shared with the CPA protected communication during an IRS criminal investigation? And the answer is no. Any communication you have with your CPA, with your accountant, any people, for instance, who are employees in your company, anyone other than an attorney is not considered protected communication. However, the communication you have with an attorney will fall under the attorney-client privilege, and the IRS is not going to be able to get that. Now, there have been some exceptions the government has explored recently. There was a recent U.S. Supreme Court case that has looked at mixed communications. What happens if you have an in-house attorney and the attorney's engaged in a business transaction, drafting contracts, but there really isn't any legal advice? The government has, in some circumstances, been able to get information that is not legal advice and blocked it from the attorney-client privilege. So be careful when you have communication with other business associates and you CC your attorney hoping, well, now this is protected. It may not be. Definitely want to talk to your attorney and identify a legal issue or some legal advice that is tied to that communication just to strengthen the argument that it is protected. The third question that has come up, what if you believe you filed a false tax return? Can you file an amended return to correct the error and eliminate the crime? No. If you actually engage in criminal activity, if you file a false tax return and you report something that rises to the level of willfulness and is a tax crime or deemed to be a tax crime, it's, filing an amended return to correct the original return is not going to eliminate the crime. You can't unring the bell once the activity has been completed. However, there are options and ways and strategies to mitigate that criminal activity and maybe convince the government that it's really not that big of a case if there's some other circumstances that are involved. But you can do things after the fact that might mitigate that risk, and potentially the government might lose interest in the case. Definitely want to talk to an attorney, an experienced tax attorney, before doing anything, because that second activity, that second act, maybe the filing of the amended return, could further enhance the activity and really make it look like you intended to defraud the government because you originally filed a false return, filed another return, and now it kind of highlights that original activity. So there are going to be some important strategies to consider before you take any corrective action. However, don't wait. Talk to an attorney right away. Understand what the strategy is. Make sure you provide all the information to your attorney as well. We've typically, in a lot of these situations, don't always get all the information, and that actually hurts our defense. As an attorney, my obligation is to protect my client. I also have to be truthful to the government, but there are strategies on minimizing that risk. I'm John Milikowsky, founder of Milikowsky Tax Law.